Hello and welcome to the Snakebite, our weekly sports show that airs every Wednesday at 1 o'clock. It was a bit of a slow week in Moccasin Athletics, but we did get our first basketball games of the year. Alongside Kenzie Council, I'm Christovich, and here's what the Mocs have been up to.
Well, John, both the men's and women's teams picked up their first victories of the season this past weekend on the road. Let's start with the women who traveled to Cleveland, Tennessee for the Gulf South Sunshine State Conference Challenge. The team dropped their first match of the season against the host of the tournament, Lee University. Frankly, the team simply couldn't make a shot as they shot just 15 of 59 from the floor on Friday night. Lee won 66-43 in what was an unfortunate start to their season. The team had just 10 points at halftime.
The 10-hour drive wasn't for nothing, though, as the Mocs salvaged the tournament with a win over the University of Alabama Huntsville on the second day of the challenge. Freshman Ariel Dabu did her part in leading Florida Southern to their first win of the season, as the Mocs took down the opponent 62-58. Dabu was extremely efficient, tallying 21 points through 51 total minutes over the course of the weekend. The team, which was picked to finish second in the conference at the beginning of the season, will have their first conference test this Saturday as they travel to Miami Shores to take on the Barry Buccaneers.
And on the men's side, it was a similar story. They took the trip to St. Petersburg, Florida for a pair of games against the University of West Alabama and Delta State University. Let's start with the first game, looking at Friday afternoon's tilt with West Alabama. The team ultimately lost by a final score of 74-69, but a few of the Mocs' new stars shined at their FSC debut. Graduate student and transfer out of the University of West Florida, Tariq McElphin, shot 4 for 8 from the floor and 75% from three-point range, picking up 6 defensive rebounds along the way. Though the team ultimately ended up losing by 5 in their season opener, they made it for the next day with a big performance.
That's right, Kenzie. You could tell that the Mocs may have felt that the first game slipped away from them, but there were no mistakes against Delta State. Redshirt junior E.J. D'Amberville showed up in a big way on Saturday, coming down with 13 total boards and 18 points for the team's first double-double of the season. Over the course of the weekend, Xavier Rhodes picked up 12 total assists and 26 points in the split of games. Jake Schner, the graduate student out of Boca Raton, Florida, is back for his 6th year with the Mocs, and our own James Simpson had the chance to chat with him after this weekend's slate of games.
This week we're here with Jake Schner, a graduate student and guard here on the men's basketball team. Jake, thanks for sitting down and spending some time with us.
No, thank you so much for having me.
I wanted to start just by knowing how it feels to have this full season planned out ahead of you after the abbreviated years last year.
Yeah, it's kind of a relief, a little weight off your shoulder, I would say. I mean, last year was crazy. I don't think anyone wants to go through it, not even in an athletic standpoint, but just in a life standpoint. But it's great to have, a fresh, full schedule and some new faces on the team as well. So it should be a fun year.
Yeah, I know I'm very excited. You guys, you're going into the regular season, ranked 23rd in the nation, 4th in the conference. Has there been a message from the coaching staff regarding that? And if so, what's it been? Yeah,
so I mean, the coaching staff tries not to talk too much really about the rankings, because at the end of the day, we don't want to be ranked 23rd on the day one. We want to be ranked, towards the end going into the NCAA tournament. So there hasn't really been much talk about that, and same thing with the conference rankings. So it's just really sticking to what we do every day and trying to get better each and every day, and realizing that we want to play our best basketball, in March when it really counts.
Yeah, I would say it doesn't matter how you start, it matters how you finish. And
exactly.
I think the rankings are just indicative of how competitive our conference is.
For sure.
And now you're coming off opening weekend. You went 1-1 with a narrow loss to the University of West Alabama and a butt whooping of Delta State.
Yeah.
I imagine that there's mixed feelings about those results. What are your big takeaways from the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I think we let one slip away at West Al. First game of the year with a bunch of new guys, like I said. So just taking some time to gel a little bit. But I think we grew a lot from it in a 24-hour span and had a great win against a really good Delta State team who was 1-0 at the time. And being able to give them their first loss was a big deal, and to get our first win was also a big deal. So I think we took some positives away from the weekend, and hopefully we can build on it going through the season.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the underclass. This is your 6th, and last year
Yep.
at Florida Southern. What have you seen that's really impressed you from the underclassmen, and what do you think that means for the future of FSC basketball?
Yeah, I mean, I think Coach Donnelly's done a great job recruiting great quality men, not just basketball players. So I mean, all the guys that we have are good guys, very approachable guys that anyone, can come up to on campus and talk to. So, I think that's always a good sign as you progress forward. And I think that's something Coach Donnelly and his coaching staff, Coach Mack and Coach Langston, really try to look for when they recruit a kid is not just, the basketball player, but how good of the person they are as well. So I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's always nice when you're on a team, not just with good athletes, but with good people. And, we're looking ahead. Next game this Saturday against the Berry Buccaneers at Miami Shore. That team's coming off 2 wins against Albany State, but you guys beat them in all 3 matches last year. What's the team mentality heading into that weekend?
Yeah, I mean, knowing how Berry's always one of the top teams in the conference since I've been here. And they're very well coached, so they've had the same coach for since I've been here as well. And going down there to Miami, that gym gets really loud, and it's going to be a tough environment, but it would be really good to pull one out down there and be 1-0 in the conference, 2-1 overall. So looking forward to it. And
I'm sure they'll have a packed house. Same situation we're in coming off the COVID year. And speaking of home games, our first home game will be next Tuesday against USC Aiken, and then the Terrace Hotel Thanksgiving Classic. What's the anticipation been like ahead of these home matchups?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying not to look too far ahead because we got a big one coming up at Berry, but it's hard not to, knowing that we haven't had fans, in Jenkins Fieldhouse for quite some time, and just to be able to get back out there with the fan support against USC Aiken, and then having the Thanksgiving tournament again, which is always great. A lot of family there. It's definitely exciting, but we're taking it one game at a time, and hopefully we're 2-1 going into that game against USC Aiken, and then 3-1 going into Thanksgiving tournament.
Thank you to James and Jake, of course. The team is set to be back in action this Saturday as they take on the Berry Buccaneers for their first conference game of the season at Miami Shores.
In volleyball news, the season will wind down this week after a tough stretch of losses against conference opponents. After taking down the nationally ranked Nova Southeastern Sharks at the beginning of the season, the Mocs went down quietly last Thursday night in the second half of the season series. Among the bright spots were Cassidy Markle picking up 23 more clean assists, as well as Tiara Porter knocking down 9 more kills as her career with Florida Southern comes to a close. The team has 2 more home conference matchups before the season goes into the books, with a battle against Embry-Riddle on Friday and Senior Day against Rollins on Saturday at 4 p.m.
After both swim teams competed against JUCO powerhouse Indian River State College on November 5th, they had nearly 2 weeks off from competition prior to this coming weekend's Panther Invitational hosted by Florida Tech. Both Florida Southern's men's and women's swim teams will get the chance to compete against some conference rivals right before Thanksgiving in the annual 3-day event.
Also this weekend, we'll be cheering on senior Mason Jones as he is set to race at the Division II cross-country national competition in St. Leo, Florida. Jones qualified for the national race after placing 3rd overall in the South Regional competition nearly 2 weeks ago. In 2019, Jones qualified for the national competition and finished in 88th place among all Division II runners. He'll look to improve on that ranking this Saturday at this year's race.
And finally, the men's ice hockey team returns to the arena for one last time this year as they battle Embry-Riddle on Saturday night at Lakeland Ice Arena. The team beat the Eagles earlier this year 5-3 back on October 16th. As always, hockey games are free for students to attend.
And now, this week in Mocs history. On November 14th, 1989, the Mocs volleyball team picked up 133 kills en route to a 5-set victory over the 15th-ranked University of Tampa Spartans. Florida Southern would wind up beating Tampa again less than 3 weeks later to earn the South Regional Championship. Eventually, Florida Southern would wind up finishing 4th in the nation. That's all we got for you this week on the Snakebite. I'm Kenzie Council. He's John Christovich. With Thanksgiving around the corner, we sure are thankful for you all tuning in. We'll be back in December for our last show of the year.
Brilliant. Sure are thankful for y'all tuning in.